Hey guys, welcome back. Let's model the boots. The easiest way to do that is to look from the side view. Let's find everything. And then first model the sole. So let's make a plane. Look from the top view, reduce the divisions down to 2 in width and then 4 in height, like this. And then just select the vertices and start moving them around. I'm going to select the outside edge loops, just go to edge, double click, and then just click extrude. Use the offset. You can hold control, left click and drag the offset, and then you'll get this. If you press 3 now, you can see what that looks like. It's going to be nice and rounded. It looks about right. It's a big chunky boot. I think this is a good option for the sole. Now we can make it bigger and match the scale. Just scale it like this. Now from the front, we'll move it over here and then scale. You can see that my manipulator is kind of in the way. I want to make it small and then adjust this way. Like that. That's good. Now let's extrude. We can just extrude down like this. I'm going to hold X, snap to the bottom, and it's black because our normals are flipped. Click reverse normals. It's also under modeling, mesh display, reverse. Let's add this division here. For that, we need to subdivide once because at this point, we don't have enough resolution here. If I subdivide now, what's going to happen is this. You're going to get rounded corners like this. I don't want that to happen. I'm going to delete the geometry in the middle like this, and then click subdivide. So it's going to do this, right? And now we can double click here, double click there, and then click bridge. And this will give us basically a subdivided version of what we just had, but give us still straight edges up and down. I already have this line here because we subdivided. That's going to be our line to create the heel. And usually this line in the back kind of wraps the other way. All right, now let's add a loop here, right here, like this. And then we're going to use these two faces, this one and this one, to kind of go up like that. I'm going to make the easiest way to do this right now is just to select this edge and then move it up. And then for this part, what we can do is we can delete these faces here without this. And then use our multi-cut tool like that and like this. Delete these triangles. And then I'm going to select this edge and this one and then extrude up. And snap it there. Just holding V. Click merge. Let it merges. And then we can double click this opening here, control and drag a selection over the sides here and then click bridge, that will fill it. The back, we need to slope it down. To do this, what we can do is select these vertices here, draw our selection once, put a lattice on it, and this, select these back lattice points and move them over. Now from the front, I want to do the same thing, just slightly. I want to put a lattice on the whole thing and just select the outside lattice points, just bring them in. Now we don't want these triangles here, but we can fix that. We need to drop an edge loop going across like that. But we can delete this edge and this one. Just delete them and then use equal distant. Make sure edge flow is off and then turn off autocomplete. Now I can double click here, shift, double click here, then drag up like that, hit enter. I'm gonna add one here as well. Just double click, hit enter. And then deselect and then add one here as well. Like that. I'm going to add a loop vertically like this. When autocomplete is off, you can actually go over pentagon as well. Just double click here. Enter. For this part, we don't have to go all the way up. What you can do here is just delete these edges on the corners like that. And then turn autocomplete back on, add a loop here and here. And then just connect from here to create a triangle. That's pretty much it. We can delete this edge. Don't need it. And then on the top, we need to add an edge loop from the top and drag down like this. And now we can also reduce the amount of edge loops we have here by reducing the amount that we have in this corner. There's no reason to have this many edge loops over here. All you have to do is just take this corner and connected at 45 degrees and do the same on the other side. At this point, you can just double click the two edge loops around that corner and do control delete. And that's it. Gonna make it nice and simple. Now, if you want to go further, we can also delete this edge. If we connect here, this way, and do the same on this side, from here to here, we can repeat that step and then delete these edge loops as well. When you press 3, this is what it looks like. It's much simpler, a lot less geo, but you still preserve all the geometry that we had. This little face, when you subdivide, it's going to look like this. It's going to be fine when it's subdivided. Right now, it's a little weird, but there's not a lot of deformation that's going to happen in this boot. This looks fine. The other thing is we don't need as much geo as we see here. We can actually delete the interior here. We don't need it at all. I'm going to delete that. Then clear history. I want this to be a little more rounded. I want to add an edge loop. Just set it to a relative. Autocomplete is on. Add it here. And then select this area here and then extrude it up like this. So give us like a rounder shape. And now we can continue with the boot. The rest of the boot is going to be a little easier. Like this was a little more mechanical because it has many sharp angles, but this is actually going to be easier. We'll start with a cube. And this will be our base right here, the heel. From here, we can extrude the toe section like this. Press G again, and then extrude it like that. And then select these vertices, move them down. Now let's extrude the top extrude like this. We're going to go all the way up and just kind of end right there. And then we can start shaping it. At the bottom, basically what we're going to do is we're going to make a shape like this. Right? And then press X-ray. Now, what you can do is start shaping it so that it goes through the sole. We need more divisions on top here. Let's do that. We can move this down, kind of like this. Remove the faces on top. And then start adding edge loops. Let's do 3. Okay. And you can see it'll start taking shape as you start adding edge loops. Okay. Now let's bring it over here and start doing the same thing. Basically, you want to try and get as much done with as little geo as possible. You want to try and maximize the geometry you have right here and get as close as you can to the final model without adding a lot of loops. And I use X-ray because I want to see what's happening. This right here is not the shape of the boot. This is actually cut out because it's like sharp. You want to make sure that the tube that we're going to cut is as wide as the boot itself, and then we're going to cut this in. Don't do this. That's going to make it worse. It's going to not give you the shape you want. All right, let's take a look from here. And now we can start making adjustments a little more finer from this view. And we can't do everything what we have here, but we can do as much as possible to make it easier for us later. We don't have to move many vertices around. That's the whole point here. And you can see it's already starting to take shape. Let's soften edge on this. All right, not much more we can do here. Let's subdivide once. And now we can add more detail. The bottom we don't need anymore. We can delete the faces on the bottom and then just start tucking in the geo that we see here. If I take these vertices and then scale in Y like this, then it can start moving everything in and tuck it into the sole. Move this up, scale. If you press 3, you can see what it looks like, and then we can start refining more. And in order to get the sharp edge here, we just need to bring the vertices close together like this. Separate this a little bit, and you can see it's going to give us that sharp corner. And this drawing does not really reflect what the boot would look like in 3D. You can't follow it completely because if we try and make the width the way it's here, it's just going to look really weird. We have to just use our best judgment and make it look better without going crazy with all this extra thickness on the sides in the back. But here you can see we can start tucking this into the sole, and then we can start pulling out here. Press 3 on this part, and then start kind of adjusting this to make it look like it's tucked in properly. If we turn our wireframe, it's easier to see, to get the thickness the same all around. All right. It's not bad. Now let's look at this part here. And this is going to be important to get this right. Now, I don't want to start moving vertices around, because if I do that, I'm going to change the shape. I want this to stay really round. I'm going to, on the front here, I want to move these over to match this point here. And the way I can do that is by using the multi-cut tool. If you double click it, there is an option here to add edge flow. If we start clicking down here, I want to add this loop to follow the curvature here. When I press enter, it's going to round off like that. And then we can delete this edge. We don't need it. And now we can continue cutting the top. I can start here, go this way. I want to add some loops that kind of go around, right? Because right now I have this edge loop and then these kind of slope into the shorter part here. If we kind of ignore that and draw our own loops this way, like that, and then this one there, and then the extra stuff we just delete. There we go. This is the shape, and it more or less matches. We can't get it exact because, you know, when you're drawing in 2D, you can't really understand what it's going to look like in 3D too much. We'll just have to kind of guess. I don't like what it's doing here. I want to fix that. Just take this vertex and just move it this way. Okay. And we can make minor adjustments. Like I want to take this edge, move it down. If you hold C and middle drag on an edge, the vertex will snap to that edge. Okay, I want to bring this up and this down a little. Okay, that's better. It's pretty good from the side. It's not the best, but we can actually raise that a little bit. Let's do that. Let's raise it. I'm going to select, I want to press B to soft select. I want to move my pivot to the top here like that. And then we can scale like this, and that will bring it up while keeping all of our edits. I'm going to turn soft select off and just make these slight adjustments here. And look from here as well. See, that's the thing. If I match the side there, then I mess up the front. And I think I'd rather keep the front. I think that's a nicer looking shape than the side here. The next step is to add more detail. And we can do that by just subdividing again. Like this. There we go. Looks good. Press 3. Make sure everything's good here. Now this point, I want it to be sharp. And one way I can do that is first we'll move this up like this and just make some minor adjustments. From the front, you can see when we brought it up, it pulled away a little bit. Like that. And then to preserve that, I can actually add a loop. I want to do it like this. Equal distant, turn off autocomplete. It doesn't really matter, but I'm just going to turn that off. I'm going to double click, make my adjustment. See, it doesn't go any past this section because you can see that it stops there. So I can do it like this, hit enter. This edge, I want this to be spaced out more. What I can do is hold shift right click and do edit edge flow. It's gonna just space it out a little nicer. And then the corner here, because if I press 3, you see it smooths out. I'm just going to make a little square like that. Make sure we turn off edge flow and then delete this edge. I do want it to actually round off a little bit. The one thing we can do here is to extrude the whole thing. I'm gonna click extrude and do a thickness extrude like this. And I'm not sure what the thickness should be. I think that's way too much. So let's do a little less. And then I'm going to shrink my selection because right now the whole thing is extruded. But if I shrink my selection, you can see I can leave some of that boot inside and then hit delete. Now on the bottom here, I also have extra geometry. I'm going to select this edge or face delete it and then delete the inside And then we'll reverse the normals and press 3. And this is what it looks like. I want to round the square edge a little bit. It's a little too square for me. I'm going to add an edge loop this way. Turn autocomplete on, just down the middle. And then use transform. Make sure random is off. Hit apply. And then use the blue arrow to just push that out. There we go. Somehow I added an extra loop here. We'll delete that. All right, let's make this shape. An easy way to do this is just to make the boot live. Then we can go into our modeling toolkit and use Quadra. And then I'll just do this. Just click like that, hold shift, and then we can subdivide a couple times. Just holding control, left clicking, we can add divisions like that. Also, I want to add like a bevel in here. We'll just kind of go in close and add this. All right, now we need to make this circle inside. But to do that, what I'm going to do is I'm going to delete this geometry here, just those faces. And then, and to do that, just hold Control Shift and left click. And then we'll outline what the circle is going to be. And what you want to do is you want to just make like a 4 cross like that. And then the remaining, you just put them at 45 degrees like that. And then we'll just make as best of a circle as we can. All right, that looks good. We want to make it a little wider because I'm going to add basically a bevel inside. I'll just kind of do this. Just add a thin layer of faces, and then we'll just make them small. Okay, we'll make another layer slightly bigger, and then just put a point down the middle and complete our circle. Now I want to make this line down the middle, and I want to make it that it's kind of like almost like a cat eye. I want it to start at a point and then kind of split at the bottom. But to do that, I'm going to delete this face. That way I can draw a line all the way down. I'm also going to delete this face, just so I can do it like that. And then we'll start to space this out. I want to make this even, and I want this to get to a point when it gets to the top. I'm going to fill this in, then fill this triangle in. We'll fix it later to make it like perfectly quadded, but right now all I want to do is just put the geo in there. Let's spread this out a little bit. I'm going to add an edge right in the middle. We'll delete this one, and then okay, so that's it. Now we can come out of live, clear history, and we can just extrude. So use the extrude command and use thickness. That less. I'm going to add an extra edge loop in the middle here, and then we'll take the center and then click transform, which is this button. Then I'm going to shrink my selection, shift less than, and then do the same, transform, and then select the interior vertices, make sure the back's not selected, and transform those. There. Make adjustments here. And then this edge, we're going to scale it down. So if I hold D and V, I can middle drag and snap it to this vertex at the bottom of this edge, and then use scale and just scale it down like that. I want to add a little more of a space here, so I'm just going to bring this down, bring this up a little. Okay, now let's look at the back. We don't need this geo in here, so we're going to just double click, hold shift, left click, and double click like that. So shift, double click, and then delete. Double click the inside, delete, select this edge, and then extrude, and we'll do a thickness. Not too much, just a little is enough. Oh, and also make sure to go to mesh display and click soften edge.
Okay, let's make this cut here. What I want to do is I want to tuck these straps into the boot. To make that happen, we need to make some cuts here. I'm going to use the multi-cut tool, and I'm going to go from here down to here, like this. We can adjust like that, just right click. And then I'm going to make another cut that's going to be the thickness of the strap. Like this. Right, that's all we have to do. We need to now just make sure we create a line down here where the strap's going to go in. Just so we see like this, and then one here, like that. We can hide the strap, we don't need it anymore. I'm just going to Control H. Now, this part, we need to figure out how we're going to make this into a quadded geo, right? The thing that I look at is if it's going through a center of a bunch of edges or faces. If I have these faces here and I'm going kind of through the middle, that means this edge right here can go through the middle. What I can do is start to just push that edge through the middle like this, and then reconnect, right? We're just redirecting that edge and then delete it. Control delete, like that. And now we can start figuring out how to quad all of this. If I take the corners here, I can go to the closest vertex that's like at 45 degrees, like this, and this one we'll put over here. And then this connect over here and here. Now, we can't leave these edges the way they are. We need to reroute them above. You just reroute them over this way, and same down here. Now all we have to do is just delete all the remaining junk. Control delete. We end up with this shape. Control delete, like that. And this is perfect. This is exactly what we need. We don't need the geo inside. We can just delete it. Now we can unhide our strap and then take this outer edge and push it out using just this manipulator, this little square here, and then select this one and then push that in and make any adjustments you need. Now if we select this outside edge and then extrude it in, just click extrude and use thickness. Just make it a little bit, not too much. So when you press 3, this is what's going to happen. And we also need to add an extra edge loop on the outside. I'm going to hide this for a sec. I want to use the multi-cut tool. You can also use the insert edge loop tool, but I'm just going to use the multi-cut tool. There. Now if we bring back the strap, I want to make this outer edge a little thicker. I'm just going to pull or push this over this way. And then if there's any spaces, we can fill those in by just selecting like this edge here, the faces there, and then just push them in like that. Make sure everything's touching. Same here. That's it. Now it looks like the strap is inside the leather here and it's deforming to the strap. And that's it. I'm going to make the other ones and then we'll come back and finish the rest of the boot. Now I want to add these separations here. Now we can do it as separate geo, but I think because of the way the shoes are designed, I'm just gonna etch them in. For the front here, it's pretty easy. We just need to reroute these lines, and we can do that by using the multi-cut tool and set this edge flow checkbox on. And then if I just take my loops here and just kind of try to loop them around what I just did earlier, it's going to add some curvature to it. You don't have to be precise, you could just make a nice simple curve around it. And you can see what's going to happen when you right click. It's going to round that off. You can then delete this extra edge. Hold delete. This one. Like that. And then for this edge, all we need to do here is just select it, shift, right click, and click edit edge flow. And that will automatically adjust it and make it fit. And then we can select this edge. Let's see, we have a double vertex here. I'm just going to select them and merge them. Double click the edge, and then I'm going to do a bevel with a segment in the middle, like this. And then for this edge in the middle here, I'm going to add a loop. We can set it to relative, autocomplete on, turn off edge flow, we don't need it, and make it really close, like that, super close. And then if I select these faces here and then grow my selection, shift greater than, just until I get to that thin edge, I'm going to then take and make a lattice around it. You can also do it by going to modeling, deform, lattice, and your lattice options should be 2, 2, 2, and then 30, 30, 30, like that. Hit apply, close that, and then from the side view, I can select these lattice points and move them up. And then from the top view, I can select these lattice points and scale them out, like that. And we'll create like a little separation there. And you don't have to go really out too much, because we can then do the opposite on this side. If I select these faces and then grow my selection until I get to that edge there, I'm gonna deselect here and here and here, just keep only this much selected, put a lattice on it, and then we'll take this edge and drop it down to make the separation greater, and then select these and scale them in, like that. That's it. Now let's work on the back. The back is always tricky, because one thing you need to do here is figure out how to create this diagonal across a shape like this. The first thing you can do is just to break this diagonally by taking the faces here and drawing this diagonal edge across them, just connecting them like this. What this lets you do is create separation. Like we can see that this edge goes through our cut, and there's this one, but they also go through basically around this diagonal edge that we just made. If we just take this and re-loop it around that diagonal edge that we made and connect them, we can then delete these two edges here, and then we have this remaining. And if we delete the diagonal edge, now we have quads, and that's what we end up with. And then here we can take this and just move it slightly up, like that, and then delete this edge, control delete, and then we end up with this. We do have a pentagon here, but that's okay. There's an easy fix for that, and I'll show you. Now, the reason I want to push it up a little bit is because I want to have a nice good separation here. I'll show you once we do this side. We'll do the same thing on this side. Put a diagonal edge here, and then here, make that connection, and then this edge and this one will connect. Now, you don't have to connect just this edge here, because we just need an edge here. It doesn't have to be this one. If we just start over here and start drawing our edges, we can go parallel to it, like that, and then delete this edge and this one. This edge here, to make this a little more round, I'm just gonna go around that, delete these two, and then delete this edge. We can keep this because we have a lot of space here. The next step is to connect these down. From this vertex where two pentagons meet, we're just gonna go straight down in a curve, like that. I'm gonna actually, we need to make sure when we do this that we don't do one side, because if we only do one side, you saw what happened. This vertex dropped down. We need to start at the bottom, go up. Let's adjust this a little, and then we'll continue all the way around. And I don't want to touch this edge here. I'm going to just get close to it here, and then continue this down. And click. That's it. This edge, we can shift right click, click edit edge flow. It's going to do that. That's good. You can undo and just see if it's doing the right thing, and it is. All right, that looks good. Same thing that we did with the other one. We're going to add some loops. First, I'm going to double click this edge and then do a bevel. Give it a segment. Like that. Now this edge it's too close to this bevel. I'm just going to shift edit edge flow to move that up. Like that, give it some space. And then again, I'm going to add an edge real close to that center one. Now we can do the same thing. I'm going to select some faces here. This one, and I'm going diagonal, and this one, and then grow my selection. Right up until that thin edge. Scale it. I'm sorry. Add a lattice point, and then we'll scale out a little bit. And then select this edge and pull it out. And then we'll select clear history. And I will select this one and this one. Grow our selection like that. I'm going to select these faces, deselect this much, and deselect the rest of the boot. Don't need to work on that. And now put a lattice, and I'm just going to take these bottom lattice points and scale them. Their history, and that's it. Now to add these rivets, it's pretty simple. We're just going to make a cube and then subdivide it once. This. Then if we scale this down, delete the bottom, select the bottom, and then extrude down. Extrude again, in. Like this. We'll get this shape. And it's a little square. You can see it's a little kind of not super round. In order to fix that, if you make a circle, just snap it to the middle. If you press 3 and then scale the circle, you can see how it's not perfectly circular. Just select these points here, press R, and then make sure you select this green square here. We can scale it until it's circular. Like that. Delete the circle. Now we have our quadded semisphere, basically. I'm going to soften edges. Also, just unlock, just for good measure. Clear history, freeze it, and then if we take this boot and make it live, this semisphere will now stick to it. I'm going to move my pivot down, just so it's like at the bottom. Hold D, and then just drag it down with the arrow. Now if I try and move it, pressing W and just start moving it, you can see it'll snap. I'm going to move it to where it should be, there. I'm going to duplicate it, move one here as well. Now that it's snapped, I can align it. Let's UV it really quick. I'm going to select everything, turn off live, select everything, clear history, freeze it. We can also combine it into one object. Here's the thing. If you are going to be texturing this and applying one material, you can make it one object. It doesn't have to be separate objects, and it makes it easier to texture. I don't mind doing that. If you want to have separate materials, you want to have a separate material on this piece and a separate material on this part and a separate material on the sole, then you can keep them separate. I'm going to combine it. It's not a big deal. It makes it easier to work with. I'm going to unlock normals, soften edges. Let's do a planar map from the side. From X, apply like this. Now I can, in the UV editor, separate the different parts. That. And now let's make some cuts. The top is fine. The bottom of the sole, I want to cut away. I'm just going to select these edge loops. cut. And then the back of the sole, we'll make our cut here. Let's first separate this part. And if I double click this edge, it's going to also go through the sole. I'm going to control drag a selection over the sole. And now we can cut this. Cut. And now if I unwrap this part, see what it looks like. And then if we unwrap this one, and those they look like. Alright. The rivets are easy, just unfold. Now if we select this part, yeah, those are easy to unwrap as well because they're not closed surfaces. Same here, unfold. If you do want a separate material for this medallion in the middle, we can separate it from the rest. Double click this edge, click cut, and then we can easily paint it differently. So the boot itself, first thing to make it easier for us to work with is cut along these edges. Fold. And then the boot itself will unfold it from the back. I'm going to select this edge and take it all the way up. Make sure it goes all the way in. Unfold. That's what that looks like. That can just get a leather texture. Now let's lay them all out. We'll just line this up like that. If you want to make this easier to texture, we can make this bottom edge straight. We can do that by just opening all of this up, scroll down to the bottom, press this button, then shift select everything else, and then click unfold. It will do that. You can also select the vertices or UVs at the bottom here and click unfold along U. That's going to do that. And then this edge I'm just going to manually open up like that. And the same we can do to the heel. Select from here to here. Oh, that didn't work. So we'll just select the outside rim. We select that, snap it down, and unfold. Select all of it and do unfold along U like that. Okay. These we're going to align. Now I want to unwrap them. They're perfectly straight. It's easy to texture. To start, I'm going to select the center edge. Just select the loop like this and click the center right here, the center button, align to center. We'll just hold. Yeah, there we go. If you want to do one side at a time, sometimes it works better. So the next step is to make them all aligned, and you can try to use, there's a command here, straighten UVs, and sometimes it works well, sometimes it doesn't. But we might have to just give it a little bit of help here by doing this. Yeah, that worked. Now, to make sure that everything is nice and even, this is not correct. If you select these edges or these UVs and then shift select the inside, you can then do a long U like that, and you'll see what it'll do. And then we'll do the same here. We'll just select in here and then do unfold along V. That's going to give you a better distribution of UVs throughout the shape. And then if we select the whole thing and then do another straighten, it's going to be better. Line this up. So the heel or the sole, I want this to be lined up as well. I'm going to select this edge and straighten it. Go to UVs, shift select the outside and unfold, or unfold U like that. Same here. Like this edge, straighten it, then shift select the outside and unfold U like that. And then we can select all of it and click unfold V. And if you want to make it even more perfect, we can center these and then center these as well. Then select the interior and then unfold V. That looks good. If I select this edge, straighten that, then this one, we can select the inside and then unfold U like that. And we can also straighten this, make the inside again. The goal here is that it's easier to texture. That is all. It's not, it looks pretty, it's just that it makes it easier to texture. And one final unfold along V. There. That's it. Right, let's align all of these. Layout, we'll go to Shift right click Layout, Layout UV, open the options, and the shell pre-rotation, I want to make sure it's not on because I already oriented everything properly. You want to make sure this is to off and hit apply. And preserve 3D ratios needs to be on. It is on, and then I'm going to take these two, snap it to the grid here, move them over this way. I want to place things that are similar together. The sole. Right, now that it's done, I can snap it. Press W to move it, hold Control Shift, right click, make sure keep spacing is on, and then we can snap it here and scale to fit horizontally the tile. And then we can move everything up. Right, that's good. Clear history. Let's bring back everything else. We were following shape, but also our leg is going through the boot. We'll fix that. It's an easy fix. We'll just put a lattice on the legs. Row our selection, put a lattice, give it a bunch of divisions. And now we can select these lattices here, this one, and just move them back. Make sure the leg is in the boot. Okay. History. I want to turn on symmetry. Select the center edge like this. Hold Control Shift right click, symmetry, and turn on topology. Now I can select standard tool, but if I hold Shift, I can just smooth this in. And because when you hold Shift, and if it's a convex or concave shape, it will get slightly smaller. We can just paint that in. Kind of see it's coming through there. We'll just soften that. And do this side too. You can see it gets a little thinner when we do this. Okay, the boots are done. Let's freeze, reset. It's under modify, freeze, and reset transformations. Now we can duplicate boot, put a -1 in X, and then freeze that. If I take this one, I'll call it boot or L boot, and this one R boot, like that. Let's fix the UVs real quick. On the second one, these UVs we need to flip to the side. And if you turn the shaded mode on, you can see they're red because we flipped the geo. If you hold D and X, we can snap to the center of this grid, then go down to where it says flip and flip. And these are our boots. For now, let's just move them over. They're not in the way. If you put one in here in the move, when you click the arrows, it moves one tile over. I'm going to move it in tile 8 just to keep it there for now. And that's it. We'll have to adjust the pants. We can send this back into Marvelous, but we can have the boots and the body in there and tuck the pants properly in. We'll do that next. Okay, let's hide the pants. You can see there's an issue here. So again, I still have my symmetry on. Let me double check. Yep. We'll go object mode, sculpting, still hold shift, just smooth that out. Alright, the boots are done. If you guys enjoyed this video, please hit the like button, leave a comment, it really helps with engagement, and I will see you guys next time.